Hey there, wondering what to do on the weekend? Well, I've got something for you on this episode of Karishma Connect, especially if you're a theatre enthusiast. Speaking to me is Sanjeev Dixit, director of a play that's all set to go live on 13 January, 7 p.m. onwards at the Dubai Heights Academy in Barsha. Tickets available on platinumlist.ae. This play, that was originally written by Mahesh Dattani, has been titled 30 Days in September and talks about the complexities and the angst of the past. And Sanjeev tells me about the challenges of bringing that alive on screen and how, with over 20 years of experience, he's grown in the region and how has the region evolved to embrace such wonderful stories. He also tells me some tips for budding enthusiasts. So go check out the episode. And until the next one, stay tuned. This is Karishma, and I'll be back very soon. Tata. Thank you so much, Sanjeev, for joining me on this episode of Karishma Connect. It's a pleasure to have you. Can't wait to know more about everything that you do and the play specifically that we are most looking forward to. But before I get into all of that, what I asked first on the show is that tell me about your journey so far in your own words, because I believe nobody else can say it as good as you could.
Thanks, Karishma, so much for having me. It's great to have content like this out in the ether, so to speak. Journey so far. Well, it all started when I was a kid, really. There was these things back in Bandra called the zonals, which I don't think are currently happening now. But we all, whoever meet, we fondly remember the zonals. And my first play, I was something like a kid, 10, 11 years old. And I don't know if you remember this serial called Nukkad, which had this very famous character called Guru, um, Dilip Dhawan. He directed that short play, and some of my neighbors were involved in it, Neil Murray, etc. So they sort of saw me on the street and they plucked me from there and said, "Yeah, we're doing this play. We need you in it." And just that environment of sitting with all these people discussing themes and ideas and how we would explore this idea, and that for a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, however old I was, it was just too much. And I guess I was bitten by the bug since then, and so I've been involved with the theater in some way or the other since that time.
And how has it evolved since then, according to you? How has it changed over the years?
Well, time. I think the biggest change is time. And I came to Dubai back in 2002, 2003. I started getting involved in Dubai theater. I've been part of the Dubai theater community for now over 20 years. And what I'd say has changed the most is the time. As in, I remember when we first started doing plays in Dubai with this group called Theatrics that I was a part of. We had talk about a play and we think about doing a year and a half later. We'd start reading, we'd just keep reading, and it was an excuse for people to meet, which is the great thing about community theater. Even back in Bombay, it was more about meeting and sharing food and doing stuff, and
Yeah.
then eventually after reading for about a year, you'd think, hey, you know what, I think we have a play, so let's look at getting a venue. And then from the beginning of the idea to and starting to meet, 2 years later we'd have a play. So that was kind of sometimes how it worked.
Yeah.
And now it's micromanaged. There are Google sheets and calendars, and everyone's availability is like half an hour, 1 hour. Oh my god, I have this, I can't come for this. And so to me, that is the biggest difference from that time. It's like suddenly we don't have time, which is very surprising.
Yeah, yeah, very true. It's more regulated as well. And then I think there's so many other factors also, right? There's your social media, there's the engagement, community engagement, spreading the word, all of that has also come in the picture. But tell me, how has it been in the region? Because Bombay as a market, I know, is very different when it comes to performing arts and everything. But when it comes to Dubai, even I mean, now I think the theater scene has really developed, and you tell me more because you've been on the scene more closely but as an outsider, I've seen the time when there used to be one or two groups, and like you said, they would take ages to kind of formalize to now where there are mainstream platforms that have come. And thanks to people like, people like you, people like Rashmi, and I also know Gotham, who have kind of taken all these efforts. So, how do you think it is different when operating in the region, and what do budding enthusiasts need to keep in mind when starting out here?
Hmm. what enthusiasts should do is just be part of as many things as they can be a part of. I think you spoke of Gautam, and short and sweet is something that we all started in short plays back in 2013 or 14. But you see, the thing is, we have a recency bias as well in Dubai. Theater is going back almost 40 years. A play I did called Amazing Dubai, which is a musical, was the brainchild of Brian Wilkie, who has been part of DDG for 40 years, and he built Duck Tax. So what happens is, because we only have that recency bias, we only think of the last 5, 10 years, when actually the history goes back further than 20 years before even I landed here. So there's a lot of history to Dubai theater, and a lot of people have put in effort for a long time to get it to where it is. And because I think the biggest thing in correlation to the question you asked me is that we have to accept that this is a transient sort of space. People tend to, I mean, unlike me, who's been here for 20 years, and others who've been for much longer, but a big core of the community comes and goes. They come, they work, they have something, they move out. So it's a transient community. So therefore, people only tend to remember the last 3, 4 years. What I tell enthusiasts to do is, my advice I copied from Woody Allen is show up. 80% of success is showing up. Just show up. You wouldn't believe how much there is to do on a production, how much panic there is behind the scenes, and having someone who is committed, invested, and there and present is critical. And showing up also is relates to time. Showing up is being present not just by being there, but being not distracted, not on your phones, being present in the moment with the person you're with the people you are trying to do the play with, because it takes time to get into character on stage. It takes time for the stage to warm up as well. And these are things that can't be taken lightly. And we tend to do so, especially nowadays. Everything's so organized. You say, you come, you have your half an hour slot, 1 hour slot, and bang, you're done. That's not how it works. Sometimes you have to let it sort of seep in, just let it breathe, and like fine wine, I guess. That's the only thing, that's the only way it works. You have to commit that time. Yeah.
Very valuable insight there, something I strongly believe in also throughout the podcast itself. I think showing up is very important, and I think it takes you miles afar. But tell me, why did you choose direction specifically? Why is direction being more a more important part of your journey?
Hmm. Interesting. I'm not sure it's direction, but yes, I'm known more as a director, I guess. Uh, it's it's but I consider myself a writer and a director as well. But I do a lot of direction. Let me think. I'd say it's because of, at some point in your journey in the theater, you sort of identify with certain things, and most people start off as actors. I started off as an actor as well. But at some point, I think what happens is, and this one of our mentors from theatrics, Chandra, dear friend, who's now in Canada, also pointed out, was that you start getting this spatial awareness. When you're on stage and you start thinking more in terms of, oh, hang on a minute, this guy's coming from there, this guy, and you start seeing the big picture, then you know that your brain is working the way a director's brain would work. So once that realization dawned, I was like, yeah, I am thinking more in terms of this, and I'm thinking, oh no, I wish this would be a little different. And I guess it has to do with also being a bit of a control freak, at least initially. I'm trying to let that go now. But you want everything exactly the way you want. But that's the negative part of it. I think the positive thing about direction, and in fact, as you brought it up, I had this mini existential crisis a couple of years back. Is like, what is a director even? I'd ask myself, like, what do I do? I'm a director. What does a director do? I say he tells other people what to do, and that's, I mean, I know it's reductive, but that's horrible. That's not what you want to be. You don't want to be someone who just tells people what to do, and it's them who are the ones who are talented, which is true. But then you sort of realize that there is something called as the unity of vision, that has to tie into every aspect of the production, of every aspect of every decision, which helps in thematically exploring a piece or a production or a play in the best way possible. And that's only possible through that unity of vision. And to be honest, it need not be the director. Sometimes like we see in Bollywood sometimes, or we see in Hollywood sometimes. It's producer led or star led. Whoever has the vision, whoever is leading, it tends to be the director now, since the development of the auteur theory and stuff like that. But it could actually be anybody. It's that person who everyone turns to say, hey, what do we do? You know, it depends on what. Some people are so shy, they want to only do production, or they want to write, or want to go into corner and write, which is why, I mean, I did an acting workshop, sorry, a writing workshop, where this wonderful writer come down from Hollywood, Jeff. He said that being a writer and director is kind of schizophrenic, because writers are something who goes into their cave, and directors are gregarious and outgoing. So this kind of weird balance of both is kind of I think he meant to say it's wrong, but I don't know. Somehow I manage it. Somehow that's who I am.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, knowing a lot of things is helpful, but knowing what you want is even more important, I'd say.
That's true. And then, may I ask you this question because you're somebody who is pretty much in control of the set. Tell me this one role on set which we often overlook, but is actually playing a very instrumental part of the entire theatrical journey.
I think anyone who's handling production, it's a thankless job. Because everyone's focused on how the product looks, or sometimes how they look, uh, and therefore there's that. It's changing now, and especially on my productions, I don't stand for it. Uh, uh, where there's an expectation that things will just materialize, you know and the person who makes those things materialize is the production
Mm.
person handling production, and they are running around helter skelter to make sure. I mean, it's if there's just think of a scene where there's a thread on a coat that a character has to pick up, and it's a clue. Someone has to put that thread on that coat, and if they don't, there goes the play. I mean, if that's a very critical part of it. So, and the production, I think whoever handles production, and in Dubai especially, because people don't generally want to, because they'd rather act, and that's what most people are driven by, wanting to act. But they feel that, okay, if I have to act, but I need to work with this guy, so let me see, maybe if I start off in production, that's how it works. But finding a good production person who is really committed and invested and enjoys it is a rare uh, find.
True, true. Most of them are already driven by being an actor.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe. Yes, I mean, I love to act when I get the opportunity. When the stars align, I
Mm.
act when I can, but lesser and lesser these days. But I still, once in a while.
Now
Yeah.
tell me about the play itself. Dive right in, tell me everything from the beginning. How did it pan out? What is it all about? And what's in it for anybody attending?
Well, the play is a very powerful piece. It's called 30 Days in September by Mahesh Dattani, famous playwright from India, multi-award winning, wonderful person. And this play was actually commissioned by a group called Rahi, which deals with childhood trauma and stuff like that back in India. And so the real advantage of this play is that it's extremely well researched. It's he spoke to multiple people who went through, survivors as he calls them, and he literally drew from them every aspect of this play. So in that sense, it's a seminal work, and it opens up avenues for important conversations about women's empowerment, but about the human spirit, about its resilience, about how we move on from our past and from things that perhaps uh, you know we were victims. We may have been victims, but have been sort of gaslit perhaps into believing that we deserve it, or you know in some way that the fault is in you, and this victim shaming and blaming that goes on, not just in many areas, as we know. So in that sense, it's a very powerful piece, and everybody should watch it.
While portraying something so complex, what all goes into it? As a performer, as a director, what's the journey like?
It's hard. You
Mm.
have to confront dark places, within the character, and if you want to explore that character with authenticity, then you have to explore those spaces within yourself. I mean, of course, you have to set aside that that is not you, of course, but at the same time to confront those things, especially when you yourself may be a parent, or you yourself may have had. And there's a wonderful article I read the other day, and I keep repeating it during rehearsals, where it was written by a person who deals with safety, and so she used to go to these seminars and attended by men and women, and what she'd do is she'd draw on a blackboard and write men, women, and then she'd ask men, so what did you do to feel safe today? And most men were like, what does that even mean? And almost every woman had a story about what she may have done to feel safe that day. Taken her later, asked a friend to be there. In fact, beautifully, the this audition, when I had the audition, the lead playing Mala, wonderful actor Lavanya, uh, she was in It's All Been Done. My previous plays, she came to audition for that, and I saw her and I said, you know what, I'm doing this other play. It's a very serious play. Read about it, and I need to audition. It was at Rashmi's house, so So the audition. So she came for reading to Rashmi's house, and she came with her mother because she'd never met me before.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so she came with her mother because she was interested in the play, but she's like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" And that leads into this. We forget how important safety is and how difficult sometimes it is from certain perspectives to even understand what it means.
Yeah.
So to be mindful of that, to constantly remind myself of that. uh, you know uh, it was a privilege to be Rashmi came to me with this play. She wanted to do this play, and she wanted to play the role of Shanta, and she sort of entrusted me with this play because she felt that there was no other director who could do justice, which is such an amazing privilege as a man to
Yes.
direct a play like this.
Yes.
I think it's an amazing privilege. It's a responsibility, and I've taken it with all seriousness, and I hope to have done justice. I really do.
And then tell me, those who should attend and watch, how can they book tickets, and how long is the play? Where is it taking place? Just for the listeners.
It's at a school auditorium called the Dubai Heights Academy in Al Barsha. It's this Saturday, one show only, 13th of January at 7. That means the show starts at 7, so gates open 6:30. Tickets are on Platinum List. You can just search Platinum List 30 days in September, and you'll get it. I'll send you the link if you are posting it anywhere. And
Yeah.
yeah, I hope to see people there. I think it's a very important story, and it's a very important subject. And we've been through quite the ringer bringing it out, emotionally as well as time and everything. So yeah, it's going to be quite a journey. It's going to be a fulfilling one, I'm sure.
Well, I wish you and the team all the very best, and definitely calling every viewer to go in and watch the play. Thank you so much once again, Sanjeev. This is a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you for being on Karishma Connect.
Thank you, Karishma. Pleasure being here.